She was born into Hollywood royalty, the daughter of Judy Garland, and seemed destined for greatness. But behind the glitz of the stage lights, Liza Minnelli's life became a battlefield of broken marriages, crippling addictions, and devastating health battles. The same stage that once gave her fame nearly destroyed her. How did a woman with so much talent and promise face so much heartbreak? Liza Minnelli entered the world in 1946 with the spotlight already waiting for her. As the daughter of Judy Garland and film director Vincente Minnelli, expectations weighed heavily on her shoulders from the very beginning. Judy Garland was already one of the most famous women in America, remembered for The Wizard of Oz and her larger-than-life performances. But she was also known for her troubled personal life, marked by substance abuse and emotional turmoil. Growing up in such an environment was far from easy. Liza once admitted that her childhood was filled with contradictions, glamour and privilege on one hand, chaos and heartbreak on the other. Her parents divorced when she was still young, and Judy's struggles with drugs and alcohol left scars that shaped Liza's own future. Despite the turmoil, Liza inherited her mother's dazzling voice and her father's flair for drama. She launched her career early, landing small roles before making her Broadway debut in Flora the Red Menace at just 19 years old. Her performance earned her a Tony Award, a sign that she was destined to carry on the Minnelli legacy. But with fame came pressure. Everywhere she went, comparisons to her mother followed. Could Liza truly step out of Judy's shadow, or was she destined to repeat the same tragic mistakes? This tension between public adoration and private pain became a recurring theme in her life. By the early 1970s, Liza had already achieved something extraordinary. She won an Academy Award for her role as Sally Bowles in Cabaret. The performance was electric, full of vulnerability, charm, and raw talent. Yet, even as the world celebrated her, her personal struggles were only beginning to surface. Success on stage and screen did not shield Liza from the same demons that haunted her mother. As her fame grew, so did her battles with alcohol and drugs. Friends and colleagues often described her as warm and generous, but also reckless when it came to her health. Her struggles were no secret in Hollywood. At various points, she checked into rehabilitation centers, trying desperately to break free from the cycle. Liza later admitted, "I tried to fill the void with drugs and alcohol, but it never worked." This confession mirrored the very tragedy she had witnessed with Judy Garland, a heartbreaking reminder of how history seemed to repeat itself. The damage to her body was severe. Over the years, Liza endured multiple surgeries, including hip replacements, back operations, and even treatment for viral encephalitis, a condition that doctors once feared would leave her unable to walk or speak. But she refused to give in. Against all odds, she returned to performing time and again, determined not to let illness silence her voice. Still, the battles took their toll. By her 60s and 70s, Liza was often seen in a wheelchair, her mobility limited by decades of wear, surgeries, and health setbacks. To her fans, it was heartbreaking. The once vibrant star of Cabaret now struggling just to walk. Yet her resilience was undeniable. Every time she appeared in public, she reminded the world that she was still here, still fighting, and still Liza Minnelli. If addiction and health struggles weren't enough, Liza Minnelli's personal life was also filled with heartbreak. She married 4 times, but none of her marriages lasted. Each relationship ended in disappointment, often played out in the public eye. Her first marriage, to entertainer Peter Allen, ended after she discovered he was gay. Her second marriage to producer Jack Haley Jr. also collapsed, and later unions with sculptor Mark Jarrow and concert promoter David Guest were plagued with conflict and scandal. The most infamous was her marriage to Jest in 2002, which turned into a public circus filled with lawsuits and accusations of abuse. Jest accused her of physical violence, while Liza accused him of financial manipulation. The divorce was finalized after just 16 months, leaving both sides bitter and scarred. These failed relationships weighed heavily on Liza. Friends said she longed for stability and true love, but fame and personal demons constantly stood in the way. "I've always been looking for someone to take care of me," she once admitted, "but I end up taking care of them." This vulnerability, paired with her open-hearted nature, left her exposed to disappointment time and again. Each failed marriage chipped away at her public image, turning her into fodder for tabloids. Instead of being celebrated solely for her talent, she was increasingly portrayed as a tragic figure, the daughter of Judy Garland, destined to live a life of both brilliance and heartbreak. Throughout her life, Liza Minnelli could never fully escape her mother's shadow. Judy Garland's legend was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it gave Liza instant recognition and credibility. On the other, it created expectations almost impossible to meet. Fans often drew comparisons between mother and daughter, their voices, their struggles, their resilience. Liza admitted that her mother's death in 1969 left a hole she never fully healed from. She was just 23 years old at the time, already famous herself, but still a daughter grieving a mother who had been consumed by addiction. For the public, it was impossible not to see parallels. Judy had battled pills and alcohol until her tragic death, and Liza seemed to walk a dangerously similar path. Tabloids labeled her as Garland's daughter living Garland's curse. Liza hated those comparisons, but could never truly escape them. Yet she also honored her mother's legacy. In performances, she often spoke of Judy with pride, acknowledging the pain but also the inspiration. In one interview, Liza said, "My mom gave me the greatest gift. She taught me that no matter how tough life gets, you keep performing because the show must go on." This duality, living in Judy's shadow but also carrying her torch, became central to Liza's identity. It defined how the world saw her and how she saw herself, as a survivor in the face of unimaginable pressure. As the years went on, Liza Minnelli's struggles only grew more visible. Her long battle with addiction left lasting damage on her body. By the 1990s and 2000s, she endured a series of major health crises, including multiple hip replacements, knee surgery, and serious back problems. At times, she needed a wheelchair just to get around. Instead of stepping away quietly, Liza fought to stay in the spotlight. But her return to the stage often showed the toll her health had taken. Performances were canceled due to illness, and when she did appear, audiences sometimes noticed slurred speech or erratic behavior, signs that her body and mind were under immense strain. The press seized on these moments. Headlines painted her as unstable, sometimes cruelly mocking her decline. Yet, behind the scenes, Liza was trying desperately to hold herself together. "I've been knocked down a lot," she admitted in one interview, "but I've always gotten back up." That resilience became both her defining trait and her greatest burden. Each time she seemed to rebound, whether through a concert series, a guest appearance, or a stage show, another setback soon followed. Addiction, surgery, illness, and personal heartbreak formed a relentless cycle that she could never fully escape. By the 2000s, the public perception of Liza Minnelli had shifted dramatically. Once hailed as the dazzling Oscar-winning star of Cabaret, she was now often portrayed as a tragic figure. Tabloids emphasized her scandals, failed marriages, and health problems over her extraordinary talent. The entertainment industry itself remained divided. Some critics saw her later performances as shadows of her prime, while others praised her bravery for refusing to disappear. What couldn't be denied was that Liza's life story resonated far beyond her artistry. It became a tale of survival, struggle, and vulnerability in the glare of fame. Today, at 79 years old, Liza Minnelli lives largely out of the public eye. Her appearances are rare, and when they do happen, she is often seen in a wheelchair or with close friends by her side. Gone are the bright lights of Broadway and the thunderous applause of sold-out arenas. Instead, she chooses a quieter, more private existence. Looking back, her story feels like both a triumph and a tragedy. On one hand, she reached heights very few performers ever achieve: an Academy Award, a Tony, Grammys, Golden Globes, proof of her unmatched talent. On the other hand, her battles with addiction, health problems, and failed marriages meant she never fully escaped the shadows of her mother's tragic legacy. Thanks for watching. Click here to check another video and make sure to subscribe to our channel.